Nancy, think of Broadway. Come on along and listen to the lullaby of Broadway. The hip hooray and ballyhoo, the lullaby of Broadway. The rumble of the subway train, the rattle of the taxis, the daffodils who entertain at Angelo's and Maxie's. When a Broadway baby says goodnight, it's early in the morning. Manhattan babies don't sleep tight until the dawn. Good night, baby. Good night. Let's call it a day. Listen to the lullaby of old Broadway. And you can give them the old razzle-dazzle, razzle-dazzle. Give them an act with lots of flash in it, and the reaction will be passionate. Give them the old hocus-pocus, bead and feather. How can they see with sequins in their eyes? Long as you keep them way off balance, how can they spot you got no talents? Razzle-dazzle them, and they'll make you a star. Well, hi, folks. I'm Jerry Orbach. Thank you. And this show is about showstoppers, show-stopping songs, and both of those songs sure qualify. I had the privilege to sing Lullaby of Broadway in 42nd Street, and that was for about 4.5 years. And the song Razzle Dazzle, of course, from the show Chicago, which is very dear to my heart because that's where I met my wife, Elaine. And usually when you think of a show-stopping song, you think of a big, loud, knock-'em-dead production number. But here's one from my first Broadway show, Carnival, that stopped the show, and it's just a simple little ballad. Love makes the world go round. Love makes the world go round. Somebody soon will love you if no one loves you now. High in some silent sky, love sings a silver song, making the earth whirl softly. Love makes the world go round. The show that got me a Tony Award was Promises, Promises, which had a few unknowns connected with it, like Neil Simon, who wrote the book, and Burt Bacharach and Hal David, who did the music and lyrics, and of course David Merrick, who produced it. It had a pretty good chance, we thought. But just before we opened out of town, it was decided that we needed a little song to help a scene in the second act, and the boys went home and overnight came up with this little duet that became the biggest hit from the show. What do you get when you fall in love? A girl with a pin to burst your bubble. That's what you get for all your trouble. I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. Don't tell me what it's all about, 'cause I've been there and I'm glad I'm out of those chains that bind you. That is why I'm here to remind you, what do you get when you fall in love? You only get lies and pain and sorrow. So for at least until tomorrow, I'll never fall in love again. I'll never fall in love again. Falling in love, I don't think has ever been more beautifully expressed than in my first show in New York, which was off Broadway, not on, 28 years ago. I had the joy of introducing a song that became a classic. I mean, I knew it was a good show, Marvin, but I didn't think it would run for 28 years, and it's still running. From the Fantastics. Try to remember the kind of September when life is slow and oh so mellow. Try to remember the kind of September when grass was green and grain was yellow. Try to remember the kind of September when you were a tender and callow fellow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. Try to remember when life was so tender that no one wept except the willow. Try to remember when life was so tender that dreams were kept beside your pillow. Try to remember when life was so tender that love was an ember about to billow. Try to remember, and if you remember, then follow. In December, it's nice to remember, although you know the snow will follow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember, without a hurt, the heart is hollow. Deep in December, it's nice to remember the fire of September that made us mellow. Deep in December, our hearts should remember and follow. Follow. Thank you.
You know,